Yeah, it's the only time I'll compare myself to LeBron James in this very program, Ben. But number one on my list for you, the Los Angeles Clippers, another team in LA. True or false? With 20 or so games to go, based on what they did at the deadline, the Clippers can win the title in 2023. True or false?
I say false, but a couple things first. This is the 4th annual Chase Thomas Victory Lap episode because when we did this in 2019, you said the Raptors are going to win the title. And I think you bring me back on at the exact same time every year so I can pat you on the back and say, congratulations, you got one right, Chase. So here I am again to pat you on the back for the 4th year in a row.
Thank you.
Number 2, LeBron could have 2 working feet or 3 working feet. The Lakers weren't going to win the title this year, man. So they were never a part of this conversation, in my opinion. We can go ahead and blame the foot injury if you'd like, because it lets them off the hook for all the other mistakes and weirdness they've had this season. They weren't a factor to me. Now, the Clippers were closer to a factor, right? I mean, you got to take these guys seriously. The whole rotation is vets. A lot of them have a ton of playoff experience. You've got your hero, Kawhi Leonard from 2019, back trying to do it again. You've got a locked-in number 2 with Paul George. Like, it all makes sense in paper. In practice, it just makes a lot less sense, and that's why they had to go and get desperate and pick up Russell Westbrook. They're 0-2 since adding him. I'm going to see them tonight. It's going to be a real challenging game against Minnesota, a team that needs a win. But the problem for the Clippers is they don't put a ton of pressure on the rim. They have a lot of turnover issues, and Russell Westbrook makes the turnover issues even worse. Paul George, kind of sloppy with the ball. Now you've got 2 of your main lead ball handlers who are real sloppy, high turnover team. I like the Clippers the best when they go small and they shoot tons of threes. And I'm just not sure that's going to be a formula that's going to get you all the way through this playoffs when you've got an upgraded Phoenix Suns, when you've got the Golden State Warriors, who you're always going to have to figure out how to match up with at some point. And then you potentially have the Milwaukee Bucks and all their size and strength looming on the other side of the bracket if they make it through the East. To me, the Clippers are kind of a second tier, maybe even a third tier team. Their best nights, they're incredible. They look unbeatable. And their worst nights, they give up 176 points to the Sacramento Kings at home and lose, right? And it's just hard to kind of square those two things. You got to have that consistency, that steadiness if you're going to be a title team, and they're just too up and down for me.
Is it a coincidence that the NBA thing came up about like the new overtime rules to kind of limit the time was right after Kawhi Leonard played like 48 minutes against the Kings in overtime?
Well, I think the guy who wrote that, Eric Pincus, I'm pretty sure was at that game because he's here based in LA. So I'm going to say it wasn't a coincidence. I guess I'll believe that when I see it. I say let him play until the last guy drops. I've heard other people say, give him extra fouls when they get into overtime. I say no. If everybody fouls out, let's bring it down to 3-on-3. Whoever the last man standing in 7th overtime deserves to win the game to Chase, especially in the playoffs. You can't be coming up with these weird rules to kind of get around it. And frankly, there's not that high of a percentage of games in the NBA go to overtime, right? So I don't think it's really an issue to me, but we'll see.
What do you think's the best 5 the Clippers can throw out to win the title? Like if Ty had to pick his best 5 to run the gauntlet in the West, what is the 5 based on the current roster?
Well, my favorite 5 is Kawhi, Paul George, Terrence Mann, Nicholas Batum, and then you could probably throw in maybe Norman Powell. I don't like when they go big. I don't really like their bigs. They added Plumlee. They've got Zubac. They're traditional options. Maybe you could put Morris into that 5th spot if you need to be a little bit bigger, but the Clippers want to be interchangeable. They want every guy to basically be a wing and to just completely switch everything on defense. They want, guys who can guard 1 to 5. The key is their best 5, their starting 5, and their closing 5 should not involve Russell Westbrook. And unfortunately, right now, their starting 5 and closing 5 have involved him. And it's not going to work. I don't know what more they need to see. It hasn't worked for the Wizards, the Rockets, the Los Angeles Lakers, the Oklahoma City Thunder. There might be other teams I forget. Utah Jazz, they had them for 72 hours, never took the court. Didn't work for them either. It's not going to work for you, LA Clippers. Try to wean yourself off of Westbrook as quickly as possible. And if they do that, I might actually increase their chances of winning a title.
Yeah, they were kind of it's just funny how some things change and some things stay the same, where it's like the Clippers just feel like one final guy away. And that's just kind of what they felt like with CP and Blake for so many years. It's like they could never figure out the three. Like they had DJ, they had Chris, they had JJ, they had Blake, and it was like, oh, maybe it's Lance Stevenson, maybe it's Paul Pierce, maybe it's this guy, and they just never figured out that final spot. And it seems like time is a flat circle, and they're just right back to where they were 10 years ago.
You know, your dad's not going to like to hear this, but Chase, great point. They had that last guy. It was Reggie Jackson in 2021. He played great. It was the best they ever. They made the Western Conference Finals. Kawhi gets hurt. They maybe win the title if Kawhi doesn't get hurt. Reggie Jackson starts to fall off a cliff. He's not the same player these last 2 years. John Wall, that experience didn't work out. Now they bring in Russell Westbrook. They're just searching for that guy you're telling them that they need, and who Reggie Jackson was for about 4 wonderful months for the Clippers back in 2021. And they haven't been able to resurrect that feeling. And you're right. They're short a ball handler. And they're short a leadership personality, too. And that's part of the reason why they went and got Westbrook. It kind of already feels like his team. He led them out onto the court with Chuck the Condor, the mascot. He has all this, fire, and he plays to the crowd, and everybody gets really excited when he plays well. But he's just too unstable of a player, unreliable of a player in big moments to have him be your leader. I don't trust it. I bet against it. I've been betting against him every single step of the way since Kevin Durant left. And I'm still waiting for him to prove me wrong.
I'm kind of disappointed because I would have picked the Clippers if they had done the Fred VanVleet thing, right? Like if Fred VanVleet was the pick, if they were able to, the Raptors, and maybe that wasn't on the table because the Raptors didn't do anything. So maybe you could keep calling Masai, but if Masai is not moving anybody, then what are you supposed to do? But that was like the one where it's like I could see that being or Kyle Lowry even. Like look at where the Heat are at. Like just give the Clippers Kyle Lowry. I think that would have been a much better fit, and I would have been a lot more optimistic about the Clippers winning the title. And I agree. I don't think the Clippers can win the title in 2023. The Grizzlies, number 2 on this list, Ben. Can the Grizzlies win the NBA Finals this year?
My heart and my head are in conflict here because my heart says, whoop that trick. Let's go. Grizzlies, FedEx Forum, one of the most fun places to watch a playoff game. If you get these guys rolling, they've got home court advantage through a lot of the playoffs. They have an unbelievable A-list star in John Morant. They've got shooting. They've got defensive versatility. They've got size.